For this week, you read a section in the textbook on paragraph structure. So let's look at some of those basic guidelines for writing the perfect paragraph so that your workplace and academic writing can be clear and easy to understand. The first thing your paragraph needs is to be unified. That means each paragraph focuses on one subject. You can do that by providing a topic sentence, supporting details, and concluding sentence that are all on that main subject. Pause the video and read this paragraph. Which sentence seems to stray from the main idea as it's stated in the topic sentence? If you chose changing spark plugs and checking your battery can be just as easy, you're exactly right. While that's somewhat related to things you can do with your car, it doesn't fit with the topic sentence of, although many people rely on a mechanic, paying more money than necessary, changing oil in a car is easy. The entire paragraph should be about changing oil. This paragraph also isn't very well developed. The detail sentences don't really tell us anything that most people don't already know. You can pause the video and take a moment to read this much more developed paragraph with information that could actually help you change the oil in your car. Notice that I highlighted the topic sentence and the concluding sentence to show that they are both unified. They are about the same thing, how easy and money-saving it is to change your own oil in your car. To check your paragraphs for unity, make sure each one has a topic sentence that states the main idea. If there isn't one, write one. In creative writing, the topic sentence is often implied, but in workplace writing, you want to state it, because people don't always read your entire paragraph. They're busy. You want to make sure they get the main idea right away. Normally, you put the topic sentence in the beginning. It's usually the first sentence of the paragraph. There might be some situations when you would put it in the middle or at the end. For example, if you think your audience might disagree with you, maybe you want to save your main idea for the end and use your evidence first to convince them. But in most cases, you'll start with the topic sentence. You can cross out supporting sentences in your paragraph that stray from the main idea. Maybe you don't need them, or maybe you need to develop them into a paragraph of their own. The concluding sentence in a paragraph really is optional, but again, the more you state your main idea, the easier it is for the audience to understand what it is you're trying to say. In addition to being unified, each paragraph needs to be coherent. That means they need to flow. There are two things you can do to make your paragraph coherent. You need to make sure the sentences occur in the right order, and you also need to make sure they're connected to one another, that each sentence flows into the next and flows logically from the one that comes before it. Here are two paragraphs about getting a college education. Pause the video and read them, and pick which one you think is more coherent. Which one flows better, version A or version B? If you chose version A, you're absolutely correct. I try to do some highlighting to indicate how this paragraph is organized. It has a clear topic sentence that talks about how college is worthwhile. The first few sentences in the paragraph talk about accomplishment, and then the ending sentences in the paragraph are related to jobs, salaries, and earning money. And then the paragraph concludes with a sentence that reiterates that college is a worthwhile goal. I also underlined the transition words that help to make the paragraph coherent by connecting the sentences. So it's organization, talking about one detail, another detail, and then a third detail. And then it's also connecting the sentences by using transition words that show where your writing is going, that keep the paragraph coherent. Version B jumps around a bit. It has a good topic sentence and a good concluding sentence, but they talk about getting a good job and job satisfaction. Then they talk about self-assurance. Then they talk about other benefits. Then they talk about self-assurance and accomplishments again, and then they go back to jobs and salaries. So it's a little bit more of a thought pattern. And writing isn't thinking. You think first, and then you write it, and then you look at your writing and you redraft it so it's logically organized. If you're a perfectly clear thinker, that's great, but most of us aren't. So the good thing about writing is that you have a chance to organize things and make them more clear. Here's a chart that might help you think about coherence. So there are two approaches you can take. One is how you organize the information in your paragraph, and the other is how you connect the information in your paragraph. Let's go over each one of these briefly. When you write a paragraph, check it for your organizational strategy. Which one did you use? If you were just putting down thoughts as they came into your head, that may not be the best order. Here are some orders, although this is by no means an exhaustive list. If you're telling a story, or if you're giving steps, you may want to go in chronological order. First this, then this, next this. If you're describing something, like a physical object like a car, you may want to put things in a spatial order. Start at one end of the car and go all the way across it and finish at the other end. If you're writing examples, you may want to put them in an order of importance or order of interest, from most important to least important, or least important to most important. When you're writing in these different modes, like compare, contrast, cause, effect, and classification, there are other strategies that you might use. If you're comparing two objects, talk all about one object, and then talk all about the other object. The main point is your sentences should be in an order that makes sense, and that order doesn't always come falling out of your head perfectly. You may have to go back and see if one of these logical organizing patterns would work for that particular paragraph. The second part of coherence, remember, was connecting the information. So this was sentence to sentence. Things need to flow. The main thing you can do to help with that is use transition words. Transition words like however, therefore, can be super helpful to the reader because they act as little road signs. On Blackboard, I put this transition word handout, and the transition words are categorized under their main use. So if you want to illustrate something, you can say, for example, or for one thing. If you want to change your line of reasoning, you can say, however, or on the other hand. Without these transition words, the reader has to figure out that you're changing the line of reasoning. With the transition word, they know instantly. So again, they're like road signs telling the reader which direction you're going in. Here's a very simple paragraph about pets. It's pretty easy to understand. It doesn't have any transitions. But pause the video for a moment and try to add in a few transitions to make this paragraph flow better. And again, here are some sample transitions that you might use. Well, there are a lot of things you could have done to the paragraph, but I added in the words in green. Every child should have a pet. Children need the companionship that pets provide. Most pets require love and attention. Therefore, having pets helps children develop a strong sense of responsibility. In addition, children learn a lot about life from their animals. Children really need pets. Pets need homes. Children and pets need each other. You wouldn't want to put a transition word in front of every sentence because it provides almost too much direction, and the reader may feel like they're being whipped back and forth with too many street signs to pay attention to. But just a couple of transition words can improve the rhythm and flow and also help people to understand complex topics. This paragraph about pets is pretty simple and maybe doesn't need transitions, but the paragraphs you'll write for your research papers might be more complex, and transitions can be a big help to the reader. When you write your paragraphs, check and make sure you've used some of the transitions from the handout to help us move from the beginning to the end. Here are some simple things that you can do to improve the coherence of your paragraph that we may have forgotten about. One thing is to repeat your main idea. Yes, you're going to put it in the topic sentence. This paragraph is about machines. Hopefully, you'll repeat it in a concluding sentence. You can even repeat that same word a couple of times throughout the paragraph. Think of it as stepping stones across a river to help us get to the other side. You just keep reminding us what it is you're writing about. You wouldn't want to keep repeating the same keyword in each sentence, though. That would get a little bit boring. So you can use synonyms. You can see that in this paragraph about machines, they use the word machine, appliance, gadget, and high-tech device. Again, we're constantly being reminded what this paragraph is about and how the sentences connect. Finally, you wouldn't want to have the main idea or a synonym in each sentence. You need to use some pronouns in there too. Pronouns connect because they force the mind to look back at the previous sentence to see what you're talking about. Machines, large and small, have seized control of our lives. They buzz and whir all around us. I know that they refers to machines because machines is plural. They buzz and whir around us. So those pronouns also glue your paragraph together. When you're checking your paragraph for coherence, I would underline your topic sentence and any word or phrase that you think is the main idea. Then underline each time you repeat it. If you don't repeat it, you may need to add it into some of the sentences. Maybe you're using too many pronouns. I find that in the introduction paragraph to the research paper, people will state their main idea once, and then they will start referring to it with a pronoun. It's hard for the reader. They need to hear that main idea a couple of times or a synonym for it before you start using pronouns. This will keep your paragraph coherent. There's one more thing in this chart that we didn't talk about, and that's being consistent in point of view, verb tense, and number. If part of your paragraph is in past tense and part is in present tense, that gets a little sloppy and it really interferes with the meaning. So some of those sort of proofreading errors, those grammatical errors, if you're talking about some things in the singular and then you refer to it later with a pronoun that is for the plural, it may not seem like a huge deal, but it really does interfere with the meaning. So those types of things also help to connect the information, making sure you edit and proofread. Parallel structure is another way to connect information in your paragraph, and we'll be talking about that later this semester. So to sum up, you want your paragraphs to be unified about one topic, and you want them to be coherent. You want them to flow well from sentence to sentence and be organized from sentence to sentence in a way that makes sense.